Okay guys, so we will continue our class for today. Next one is what promise, right? So we talked about the callback study, okay, and set timeout also. So we are using set timeout, right, to basically, just to delay, like to give some delay on the process, right? In promise, what happened when you fetch something, right? When the promise is returned, that is basically takes some time, okay. So to create some kind of situation, right, we use set timeout, just add some delay so that it will just take some time, and whatever it returns, right. So there is two things now in promise. Let's first talk about promise, right. Basically, let's create an object of promise, and then we're gonna talk about all the details, okay. So in JavaScript, a promise is a good way to handle asynchronous operation, right? Asynchronous means in your whole code, you might have many functions, right? Which is basically fetching data from outside, okay? Means it's just getting data from outside, right? Outside server. So it takes some time, and you don't want to break your code, okay? So your code will be, the rest of your program will be keep running, right? And then all that functions which is asynchronous means which runs parallelly, right, means the function run already, okay, and they have something in response. There is something, right, which is just waiting outside in the browser API, okay. Remember, and that is basically a promise. And what is promise? Promise is a simple object, and promise has two things. One is the state, and the next one is the result, okay. Result, right, state. So there is a three different state when the function created, or basically when function execute, right, until the data is received, that is pending. Means you have the object promise, but that is right now pending. Once the data arrived, right, then it will be passed to your result. It will be there in the result property, right, and promise status will be, state will be fulfilled. Let's say you did somehow you did not get a data, then the state will be rejected, and there will be some message for rejection, right. So that's how the promise work, okay. So we will learn first. We're gonna understand by creating promise ourselves and see how you can pass data to the promise. We just try to visualize that, right, with our code. And when you say promise, right, any function which returns promise gonna have the same situation, okay. Like for example, fetch function, remember fetch, or even axios, get data, all that, right, gonna return promise object, okay. So let's go back, right. So first you're gonna do the create promise, and then use promise, right. Once the promise is created, and when the data is fulfilled, right, means when it is fulfilled, then you're gonna use then method to grab the data. Then method, right, and then method will take callback function, and in that callback function you're gonna pass a parameter which is gonna have a data. If the promise is rejected, means the state is rejected, then you're gonna call the catch function to catch the error message, okay. And there is something called finally, right. This will run no matter what, okay. If there is fulfilled or rejection, right, it will still run, and you're gonna pass some message, okay, in that one. So because I was flying, right, 2 days, I mean, so I just use the same example, okay. So we're gonna create promise, like basically I'm gonna buy a ticket. Let's say if I have to go fly, right, it means I'm going home, I need to fly, I need to buy a ticket first. So ticket does not means I'm flying, okay. It's just a promise, right. It's kind of some kind of promise that will let me board the plane, right, okay. So I'm gonna create a promise that will be ticket, right. Ticket is just a variable, and it has an object. The promise will return what? Object, which gonna have some data, right. And maybe the promise always return one thing, either it is fulfilled or rejected. It just give you one thing, okay. That's it. So let's create this and try to understand now, right, in our code. because we must create promise and try to understand exactly, because we just say promise, 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 right? Promise is basically the object, and it's just waiting, right, in the browser API. When the promise execute, okay, it's just waiting there. It's just wait until the status is fulfilled or rejected. So from pending, right, from pending means what? It's still processing, right? It's still in process. Then the data will either arrived or it will be rejected. So the state will change, either fulfilled or rejected, right? And in based on that one, that is what we get. So how are we going to get that? That is the then method. So we will check all that in our code. Let me go to JavaScript. Let's see. Okay, JS revision, right? Okay, so if I do git, I think we work on the laptop started. Let's see if everything is here. Yeah, it's up to date now. So in our revision section, we have index page, callback. So I'm gonna create one file called promise.js, and I'm gonna link that to my index page. Okay, so index page is here. So let me comment this out, right? Promise.js. Okay, so in promise, how you create promise, right? Because there is a fetch function which returns promise. We don't have to create anything by default. When you put some link, it will return you the object. Okay, it will just return the promise. But in our case, how we create a promise, that is what we're going to look, right? So const, let's call it ticket. I'm going to buy ticket now. Ticket, right, equal to, there is a function, constructor function, right? Remember in object oriented, right, in JavaScript, there is a function called constructor function. So there are many built-in constructor functions, okay, and that has a special purpose, right? So in the constructor function, when there is a constructor function, that will start with capital, okay, right, like this capital letter, right? So that is promise. Promise is a constructor function, like that. But when you put new keyword here, right, new, okay, so it returns something. Okay, so let's check, right, what it is returning. Okay, let's do that. Console.log. We're gonna go step by step and try to understand, right? Ticket. Let's see what that ticket is. Okay, this ticket is a variable, right, and it is holding some data now. It will just whatever we get returned back from here, right, that is inside the ticket variable. Simple. There is some data. So data means what? How many kind of data we have? String, number, boolean, array, object, null, undefined. So out of all that, right, this is one kind. Okay, and the promise returns object. Okay, return object. Simple enough. So let's check now in our console. So if you go to the inspect, right, so we don't see anything. That is just, I mean, it's just not resolved yet, right? There is no resolve yet. So let's define the resolve. Okay, this is uncut type error, right? Promise resolver undefined, right? Means basically that means some kind of technical error here, right? So let's figure out. So in the promise, it needs, you have to pass something, and that is a callback function. Okay, so we just put arrow function here, like that. Either you put arrow function or you can write the normal function, right, like function, okay, and this is anonymous function that you can do this. So in this function you have to pass two things, either resolve or rejected, right, rejected, reject, okay, let's call it reject, right, reject. So what is resolve and reject? These are two functions, okay. So when the promise is fulfilled, it will have resolve executed, and this function will bring the data to us. And if the promise is failed, right, then it will be rejected. So let's try to so we bought ticket, right, we bought a ticket. Now I want to see one thing, right, let's I want to add like false or maybe true, whatever, right, just to what do you call that, just to demonstrate, okay, how things work, right, because right now there is no way I can make it resolve or reject. I mean, unless something happens, right, so that means I have to make it true, then do something, false, do something else, you know, I just have to add something like that. So let or maybe const, right, let's say and I can give like is boarding or is I you know, like is boarded, what variable I use here, let's see, is board or something, is boarded, right, so here is boarded, so let's add that one, let, I just want to add true or false, so I will add false and then I will show you true also, right. So I say if is boarded, right, then that is false. So when this will be true, then the resolve means successful, data received, right, you can send the data now, resolve, okay, this function will run, and you can say you have boarded the plane, right, plane, you know, something like that, right, else right, else rejected, okay, reject, right, reject, and your flight is cancelled, right, okay. So in this case, because we are in the else part, this function will run reject, right, reject, okay. Once this is done, so now we have created the promise, right, so let's see what we're getting back here, right, what is that in the console, okay, see that, so we get a promise back now. So promise is what, first try to understand, right, promise is an object, promise is what, it is an object, it has a state now, state, right, state is rejected, right, and then there is a data, whatever you pass, whatever data you pass, right, is there. So state is rejected and you have the result, right, result is here, the data. So these are the property now, the state and result and all these are property of the promise object. So what is promise now, that is a object. So when I say object, it has two state now, right, two state, one is state, basically it has two property, right, one is state and the second one is result. It is something like this, you know, I mean, if you, when I say object, right, the promise is object like this, it has a property called state, right, and it may be fulfilled, right, it might be fulfilled, like, you know, this is a string, so you can put it in the string because you must put the right data, right, fulfilled, and the second one will be result, right, result, and that result will be any data. So right now we have a string also, you can have a array, you might have the object, you know, anything here, that is just a data, clear. So let's say right now I have a string, right, so I will put a string here and this is data. So now why is giving error, so Why is error? So state is fulfilled, comma, next property result. Let's call it result one, right? See, no, it's still giving error. So let data equal to, yeah, so that's the reason, right? Maybe we have to put in the variable. So you cannot leave like this, so you just store this in the variable, right? Let data equal to, this is the object, that's the promise, okay? This is the object. Look at this object, okay? Something like this. So the state, see, when this function run, right, when this run, when this promise is created, in the beginning it is just pending, right? And then later it changed to fulfilled, right? So if there is fulfilled, that means you have the data. If there is reject, and the next will be rejected, either fulfilled or rejected also, right? Rejected. That's how it works, right? State keep changing. So when the promise is created, this object will be sitting in the browser, right? Just waiting there for the data to arrive, or maybe for the process to cancel or some kind of error, right? So when the data arrive, that means fulfilled, that is completed. Now you have the object, promise object, okay? And from there you have to extract the data, right? All right. So I hope that is clear now. So how we can extract data now, right? So this is the promise object. Let's see. So see, if I put here true, right? If I put true here, this is fulfilled now. Look at here. Promise is fulfilled already. See that? Fulfilled, right? And you have boarded the plane. So you have to, just understand this part. So when the data arrived, that is fulfilled. So the resolve, this function will be return the data. If there is not fulfilled or rejected, right? That means reject function will return the whatever message reject. This will execute. So promise just give you one thing, either fulfilled or reject. One data, right? Okay, so now we're gonna learn how to use then method, right? So we have the object here, so you call that object now, right? The ticket, that's the promise object, dot then method, like that, right? And the then method, so then method will be execute when there is resolve. So we will make one time resolve and next time reject also, and see how we're going to get this data, this information. Clear? So the then method takes what? It takes callback function. So I will just make an arrow function here, right? And here in the parameter you're gonna get the data, right? Data, simple enough. So this data will be in the parameter, or maybe error, right? So let's say in the then will run when there is resolve. So I want to just console log, right? I want to display that console.log, have a save flight, right? Flight, and then I will just call the data now. Okay, but what happened when there is reject, right? Then you're gonna call again in the same ticket, right? You're gonna call the catch method. Okay, it also take callback function, and there will be a data, whatever message in the reject now, reject part, okay, that you're gonna grab in this let's call it reject or error, right? Error, you can give anything, this is just the variable, right? The parameter. And we're going to console log this error log. So I can call it, okay, fly tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, fly tomorrow. And then here I'm going to call the error, right? Error message. Okay, so let's go back and see what we're getting in our console. Okay, so have a safe flight, you have boarded the plane, right? See, because I have fulfilled, that means the function resolve function execute. But if I make this false, right, false, so I'm gonna rejected happen. So flight tomorrow, your flight is cancelled, right? So that, so the promise returns one thing, either fulfill or reject function. And from there, if there is an error, you're gonna grab the error, or if there is a data, you're gonna get the data. So that's how the then method work, right? Then method work. Okay, so you might have, right, sometimes you might have the then method. Let's say there is like multiple tasks in our pizza, right, pizza making process. There are many, 3 steps, right? So first one to getting the cheese, the second one was to making the dough, and then make dough, right, and then prepare dough, and the third one was bake pizza, right? So there was multiple promise. Okay, now we're going to create multiple promise, right, and they will return promise every time, because after getting cheese, you're gonna call the make dough function, and that also going to return promise. And finally the make or bake pizza function, right, that will also return promise. And see how we're going to use then method, right, to grab the final product pizza. Okay, so I think we're going to start new file. Let's look at the new file, right? And that's why sometimes when you see multiple then, that means there are many function inside, which is the many process, right, which happens step by step. So you have to use multiple then to basically get to the bottom, right, to get the right data. Okay, so let's create a file and we call it promise.pizza, or promise dash pizza, right, .js. And in my here index HTML, I'm gonna connect to that JavaScript. So script that is source, right, source dot slash and promise pizza. Okay, so in promise pizza, right, okay, let's look at the code one time and then we're going to continue. So this is example 2, right? Here you're going to see that. So you have a function get cheese, first one, right? So in this one, to make asynchronous, like just to delay something, right, like something happens after some time, means the promise is like fulfilled after 2 seconds or 2 millisecond, right? Okay, basically 2000 millisecond. Okay, I always get mixed between second and 2 millisecond. Okay, so 2000 millisecond, that is 2 seconds. All right, so in the beginning, right, what gonna happen, this will return, I mean the data will be undefined, right, there will be undefined, or you can say it's just pending. Okay, the state will be pending, right, and then after 2000 millisecond you're gonna get the data, means promise will be fulfilled. So we are trying to create something which is going to delay the process, right? Remember, JavaScript will not stop, right? It has like a quick, so in case of promise, there is an object which is right now in the pending state, and after 2000 seconds it will be fulfilled. But we will look at all that. So okay, let's create this get cheese, right? Then you have make dough, and then you have bake pizza, right? That is all that. And then finally you're just going to start from here, right? Just use this function get cheese, and then nest, not nesting, but right now you're going to use no more nesting, right? You just use the then function, okay, to get everything right back. And finally you're going to catch, you can put finally also, it's okay. If you don't put anything, this finally, that is still fine, right? Let's just add some message like process in there, whatever. If you want to display something in the bottom, right, you can put finally function. And but the only thing, to grab data from the promise fulfilled, that is then, and to rejection, right, this will run when there is a rejection or error, that is catch. Okay, so let's start processing this, right? Get cheese. So let's go back here. So function, we're just going to write function, right? So this is just a normal function, right? So first we're gonna create promise. Okay, promise. Let's do that. Const right? What we will do? It will return. Let's see. Yeah, it will return, right? So we're not gonna store in a variable. We just return that, unless we put the variable here, right? Let's say call it cheese and then return it later on the bottom. But just add return here. So how you create promise? New promise, right? Promise. So it will return what? Object. It's gonna return object. But when you create promise, you need callback function, right? First. So you have to pass callback function like this. It's gonna have two things: resolve and reject. Resolve and reject. So these two are a function itself, okay? And this function will execute. This will execute when there is a data, and this will be execute when there is rejection, right? So what we're gonna do now, right? We're gonna make a, let's say we're gonna make let's call this resolve first. Let's call this resolve for now, right? And see what happens. Resolve, and then we're gonna just pass maybe cheese is ready, right? Like that. Okay, let's see what happens. So if you call this function here, get cheese, right? Get cheese. So it just returning the promise. This function is returning promise. That means you have to put then, right? Dot then, and that dot then will take what? Callback function, right? And it's gonna have a data. Okay, a data, or maybe whatever you can call it, cheese, whatever, you know. So let's see here, and console log, right? Console dot log data. Okay, data. So this data, right? So let's look at quickly now and see how it works. Why is error? Okay, so now if you go to our page, so cheese is ready. See that you get the data, right, already, but a return promise. So if, right, if I can go back here and without adding this one, if I console log, I want to show you something, you know. Let's say console log, right? Console.log. I just want to execute get cheese function, okay, and see what happened. So it returned promise. Look at here. That function is returning what? Promise. That is cheese is ready, right? See that? So it's just fulfilled already. It is already fulfilled, right? But I want to show you like pending state, or maybe process pending state. Let's see the pending state, right? And then after 2 milliseconds or 2 seconds, right, it will be fulfilled. So to do that, we're going to use set timeout, right? We're just going to delay the process. Okay, and set timeout, how it works? You have to pass, first one will be callback function, correct? And then we're going to pass 2000 or maybe 3 milliseconds, like that. Okay, so see, the thing is, right, you have to remember it returns either resolve or reject. So in our case, we know we have to resolve, right? Because we have to get the cheese and we have to get the dough and then make a pizza. So all will be resolved for now. But in the real world, right, you know, there will be error, like network error, whatever error, right, that will be rejected. Okay, it happens automatically. So because we're not creating any promise by using promise function, right? We're not doing all that. There is a function which is already asynchronous, and that is giving us something, right? So in this case we're going to use just resolve. Okay, so I'm going to put resolve here, resolve, and then I will say, okay, let's do one thing, before we resolve, right? I want to create pizza. So const, sorry, cheese, right? Cheese equal to, let's add a cheese. So how we do that? In the quotation string, right? The window function dot, sorry guys, I need to click here, window dot, right? And then let me find a cheese. Where is the cheese? Maybe this one. This is a cake, right? But it's okay, we just treat like a cheese. So we got cheese now, right? So when this will be resolved, I'm gonna send that cheese. Okay, cheese, done. So let's look at this get cheese function, right? Because it is going to return a promise. This is returning what? Promise, right? And then inside we have set timeout. So it will return the promise, and because it is delayed for 3 milliseconds, right, or 3 seconds, in the beginning you're gonna see that pending state. Okay, so let's see. So that's the pending. Look at that pending, right? And then if you go inside now, right, it is fulfilled already. So let's refresh quickly, right, and go inside, and this is pending, 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 and I want to see fulfilled. So it's just not changing here, right? I have to maybe close and see. It did not change. So if I go back, oh, it did not change. Okay, so it's just still pending, right? But it should change. Okay, I don't know why it did not change. So let's refresh. So now you open, right? It's already fulfilled. Okay, but I don't know why it was not changing the message here. It should update, right? But because I opened early before, right? I mean, just a message, but in the real in the data, right? And look at here the result. Okay, our data is what cheese here. So you have the state which was in the beginning full pending, and after 3 milliseconds, right, or 3 seconds, it is changed to fulfilled. And when you have fulfilled, then you have a data also. Clear now? So you see how things work, right? Okay, so that is just the object. It has state that is fulfilled, and that there is result that is data. So all the promise has the same process. Okay, so we got our cheese now. So let's create all the function quickly, right? I will just copy this, and or maybe I'll just copy from there. Okay, so we don't have to write everything again. So we're gonna make dough, right? Make dough and make pizza. So I'll just take these two functions quickly, and I will explain it what is happening, right? So same thing now in making dough, right? So making dough gonna need what? Cheese. So you pass the cheese here. It's gonna receive cheese, right? Later on you're gonna see this function you have to pass cheese. Okay, and we have cheese inside our get cheese function already. That cheese, right? We're gonna pass that cheese. Then here you make a new promise, resolve reject, set timeout. So this is a reject, right? I mean, it's just to show you reject here, how reject work, but let's comment that out. We don't need to worry about reject. Let's uncomment this, right? Because we still need to make a pizza, we have to resolve the process, right? You pass the dough here. So cheese, and then let me put the dough now, right? So it should be window dot, and the dough will be something like this. Okay, that's the pancake, but let's keep it like that. So cheese plus dough, that is the dough now, right? You mix cheese and dough together, and dough is ready. That is resolve. Okay, and after 3 milliseconds, fine. So that is dough now is ready, correct? Okay, let's go to the baked pizza, right? So you're gonna receive the dough, and then you create the new promise, resolve reject, and inside set timeout, you're gonna have dough you're getting from here, right, plus the pizza is ready now. So resolve, that will be the final product, pizza, after 3 seconds. Okay, so now so we have all these three functions, right, basically giving us cheese, making dough, and making pizza, baked pizza, right? All these three things, they all are promise. They all return what? They return promise. This return promise. This return promise. So we have multiple promise. So how we gonna get final result? Means how I gonna get pizza, right, as my result output. Okay. So let's write down that. So I will comment this out. And I'm going to start from the top one, right? Starting from the making cheese, okay? Because I have to get cheese first out of my get cheese function. So that I can do with then method. This is a promise, correct? This is the object, promise object. So I say dot then, and then we'll take what? Callback function. And there will be data, right? Let's call it data for now. That is a cheese you're going to get from the result. Okay, so you get the data now here, right? So I can console log, right, and say here is the cheese, right, and you display data. So when here is the cheese, right? So after 3 milliseconds, okay, you have fulfilled, and then you're just gonna get when this object is returned, right? When this is returned finally, right, when there is a fulfilled or rejected, finally when the object is complete, promise object is complete, then either will be then or maybe catch. So if that is fulfilled, you're gonna get that cheese, and that is the cheese. Fine, but I need to give this cheese to my make dough function, right? Make dough. So let's call that function inside here, make dough, right? And I'm gonna pass what? Cheese. Cheese, simple. And that cheese is this, right? This is the data. So I can call this cheese better, or maybe let's call it cheese, right? I'm getting cheese, so let's call it cheese. If I put data here, then I have to pass here data, okay? Whatever variable or parameter, right, this one, I must pass that here. Fine. So now guys, right, you have to, what is this make dough function doing? It return what? Promise. It is returning promise, right? So we also return from here, because we're not gonna do the then here. We don't do then here, right? We don't do that. Let it return promise. So let's put a return, right? Let this return what? This is a promise. Make dough is giving us promise, right? So we return that. Fine. So now we're gonna catch it here again. That is then method again, right? And it takes callback function. So now you have this time dough, right? Dough. You're gonna get a dough. Fine. So console.log right, and then let's print the dough. So dough is ready, right? And you're gonna print that dough here, that variable. Okay. So see, we get dough now, right? And after that we have make or bake, make pizza, right? Make pizza. Is that make dough or something? Let me see, make dough. Yeah, that is fine. Or bake pizza now, right? Bake pizza. So this bake pizza is also returning promise. When I say promise, means what? That's the object which has the data. Remember, the pizza is whatever pizza you're sending, right? This data, that's the dough plus pizza, right? So it will return that, right? It will just return the object again, but you have to give this baked pizza is requesting for dough, right? So let's pass the dough here, because remember, baked pizza said you need a dough to create a pizza or baked pizza, right? Clear? So you pass that dough here. So now, right, we have baked pizza also. So see, we are not nesting like in the callback, right? You did first function, then you nest inside, but we are not doing all that. Okay, we're just returning the promise and then we getting that data with the then method. That's it. So now I'm going to apply then here again, right? Then, and I will say pizza, right? Pizza. Finally I'm getting pizza back now. This is just a parameter, the variable, right? So console.log, and pizza is ready, right? Ready, and that will be pizza. Fine. So you're gonna see all this, right? Here you have cheese, so I must change this to cheese. Okay guys, so yeah, I think this is all okay now. Cheese, dough, pizza. So you're gonna see this run after 3 millisecond or 3 second, right? Then will be 3 second. After that you're gonna get dough, and after 3 second you're gonna get pizza. Okay, so let's check now, right? In our console, I will refresh this. Okay, I will refresh now, and 3 second, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, right? So pizza is ready. So see how you're gonna get data, right, from your promise using then method. When you have many returns then, right, sorry, the promises, you have to grab it using multiple then. Okay, but you must return it here, right? When you call the other function, you must return that, because this gives you promise, but you have to return from the last then method, so that you can grab to the next one. Okay, next one here, right, inside this callback function. Okay, so it looks confusing, right, little bit, but only thing you guys can remember, you have to practice one time, right? And just remember, promise is the object. It has two state, one to hold the state, right, that is pending, fulfilled, and reject. Okay, how we can do the, how we gonna catch reject, right? By using dot catch method. Okay, so let's add that also. So that will be error, right? Error, and I'll just console log that error. Right? So I'll call it power cut, right? Power cut. So there is no pizza, right? So no pizza, and we gonna grab that error, right? Error. So that is this will be the data, right? What you gonna get from here. Remember, we have one in our making dough, right? Bad, because of bad cheese it was rejected. So let's comment this out, right, and uncomment this and see what happens. So once it finds reject method, it will stop. Okay, it just stop there, it will not move anywhere. So let's go back. So cheese is here, power cut, no pizza, right? Bad cheese, see that? I mean, because I think I have console log on the top, right? Resolve cheese is sent. Okay, because that is from the dough, right? Dough, and when this function run, you get this rejected message. Okay, so you can see now, and after that it will not proceed anymore. So no pizza, I put so pizza, right? But anyways guys, I mean, you see the thing, right, how it works. So let me comment that out and put it here on comment, and in the here I can say sorry for pizza. Okay, so now it is okay, it will run the first one. Here is the cheese, here is the dough is ready, and the pizza is ready, right? Okay, so that is using then method, right? How we gonna handle same process using the try catch, right? Means basically async await. Okay, so this is the then method to extract the data, right? You again gonna have the same object, right? Basically same promise object, Same thing, make dough, make pizza, bake, what is that, make dough, bake pizza, right? These three will be same function. The only thing is how you get data back, right? The finest way, okay, the latest way. So let's comment this out and we write here, right? So you're gonna, let's write one function, right? Function, call it buy pizza, right? Pizza, okay. So because when you go buy pizza, it will take some time, so let's make it async function, because it's gonna take some time to get pizza, okay. Async, right? Fine. So once you have this function which is gonna get you pizza, right, you just execute this pizza. So when the pizza will be there, I mean when this function runs, right, you're gonna get pizza. So inside here now, right, you have two different ways. The best way is you always put try, right? Try and catch. Try when the success, and catch when there is error, right? Error, okay. So yeah, just leave it like this for now. I can put like maybe error and console log error, right? Error, okay. That's it. So when you have success, you're gonna put all your code inside, right? Inside here. So let's look at quickly one time. Go down here, async await, right? The keyword async before a function makes the function return a promise. So even this function, the new get pizza function, right, or buy pizza function will be now, we're gonna return promise, okay. Await keyword can only be used inside the async function. So await will be, you have async, you put the in the function when you're creating a function, right, and await will be in each. So because when you have a promise inside, when you're making when you have a promise call, right, then you put await, because that promise is going to take some time to resolve, okay. So that's why you put await, so that it will not just give you undefined and finish, right? No, it will just wait. It will just wait until it has resolved. Resolved means either fulfilled or rejected, right? So that's what you have to understand. Await keyword makes a function pause the execution. See that? Await keyword makes the function pause the execution and wait for the resolved promise before it continue, right? See? So that's the reason. So let's yeah, so let's go back here, right, and write down. So in here, first one is to get cheese, right? So let cheese, okay, equal to what I said, await, right? Because you are calling the promise, and that will be get cheese function. Yeah. So see, this will just give you the, in whatever resolve, right, that data will be stored in cheese. Done. One line, right? So we can console log now. So we can just copy console log from here and put it down here, right? Simple. Now let's let, right, let now is do, right, equal to await now, because that is what, that is promise function. So make do, right, do. Okay, you have to pass the data now, because do is asking you for cheese. So pass your cheese here. See, you pass the cheese. Done. So now you're gonna put that cheese console log, sorry, do console log, right, and put it here. Okay, next you have a what you have, let pizza, right, pizza equal to, so you call await again, because pizza, you know, like bake pizza is what, it returning promise. So when you have promise, you must wait until the promise is resolved. So bake pizza, right? Simple enough. Okay, so now bake pizza is asking for dough. dough, right, and it will give you the pizza. So now console log that pizza, right, log pizza. Oh, console log. So we're gonna put this console log pizza is ready here, this one here, right. Let's put that one. See, all that then method, before we did then method to get the answer, right, to get the result or resolve answer. Here you just put await and call the function and done. You have that resolve data already inside the variable. You can put const here because this variable will not change. That is fine. So yeah, I think it looks okay, right? If there will be error, we're gonna check error also. Okay, so now finally we just run this function. We just run this buy pizza function, right, and done. The reason for try and catch, right? So even if you don't put this try and catch, it will still work. But if there will be error, right, you don't have way to grab the error. So that's why it's better always put in try and catch method, right? Try and catch. Just put it like this, and it will be, you have an option to catch the error also. Okay. So now check. Let's check. So here is the cheese, and here is the dough is ready, and the pizza is ready, right? Same thing you achieve by using async await now. So we always, right, now advice is always use this one. It's more easy to use, more efficient, more clean. So when our data is you have to convert to what, when we have to convert our data to JSON file, you can do what, this data.json, right? So just remember that. All right, so now we move to the next step. What is the next step? I think we're done, right? So let's look at here. Anything more? No. So guys, any question on this? Any question? Oh, let's look at the catch part, right? Let's look at the catch part also. I want to show you the catch part. Okay, so same thing here, we're gonna use the reject, okay, to just see the error, right? How we catching the error now. Yeah, and now look at this code. So first you're gonna get cheese, right, and then there is a bad cheese. Error will be the bad cheese, see that, and then it's done, right, after error, because that is what it return, in the process. But see, you getting everything perfect. There is no like you getting the answer, right, either good or bad. Okay, you getting the data, or maybe it's just not fulfilled, right? But it does not break our code. Okay, it's nicely done. Everything is nicely done, right, step by step. But in the synchronous program, right, in JavaScript synchronous program, if you don't get the data on time, right, if you write synchronously, that's not going to happen, because the JavaScript is speed up, right? It just don't stop for anyone. Okay, it just finished the whole work, right, within a microsecond. And in the middle of the process, if the data is not there, then you have problem, right? You're going to get undefined or whatever error. So that's why asynchronous program means something you need time to resolve, right? It will just wait outside in the browser, right? It just wait there, and when the data arrived, that means it resolved. If there is no data, then it will just give you the message, hey, there is no data, please. But your code will not break. You have something there. Okay, that's the reason for asynchronous program. And we make our async by using promise, right? We saw that one. We learned how to use then method and catch method, right? We also learned how to use async await. I think now async await and then basically then method, right? It's very much clear with this example, everyone. Just tell me, right? I will stop the recording.